leave operations, or do I refuse the promotion? Making the best decision for us, Tricia moved on to the products department and I moved into Bruce's office with him. We shared the office for several years. While I was there, I learned more than I ever thought possible. Not just about operations, but also about flowers and gardening. Bruce loved his garden. He even planted grass so that he could cut it in the wintertime. I never understood that, and I always wanted happy taking a few months off. Not him. He'd come in on a Monday in February and tell me all about having to cut his grass. As time went on, and we went about our business, I started to notice that no matter what Bruce had going on, he would involve me, whether it be a report he was working on or a meeting in his office with a carrier. Hey, Danny, what do you think about X? I'd have to stop what I was doing and try and figure out where the conversation was going, usually responding, sorry, I wasn't listening. What were you talking about? Soon I realized that he was teaching me and helping me to grow, so I soaked up as much as I could. Now, there's this one time I do remember, he said he was having a meeting with the carrier and not to get involved. So I knew something was up. Turns out Bruce was telling this carrier about an issue we were having and that if he didn't get them fixed, we were going to have find a new carrier. Obviously, this rep wasn't listening. He started to tell Bruce how he needed to decrease our discount because their company wasn't making any money from us. Now, I've never heard Bruce truly swear at work, but this poor guy got it. He tore that rep up one side and down the other. I think by the time that guy left, we had another 10% discount and an apology. It felt bad for the guy, but I had to laugh. He missed the point. Bruce made sure he understood it. He never asked much, but when he felt you cross the line, you would know it. I respected him for that. He was very straightforward, and if you had a problem, he was open to discuss it, but he did not like it if you tried to pull one over on him. It became evident not only did I have a best boss in the world, but I also had a very good friend. Eventually, Bruce moved on to customs and left the operations group. My wife was never happier. She went with him, and now she had Bruce back. I think the relationship was always strongest in the operations group. Rightfully so. They spent every working hour together for years. They eventually became work husband and wife. It's kind of funny to have your wife come home from work and talk about her other husband. But it didn't matter. I know they loved each other in their own way, and they worked very well together. They had a lot of stressful issues going on, and actually were able to achieve some really big goals. They were able to get Tucker Rocky approved for the ISA program, which is very hard to get into. They worked on CT-PAT and classifying all the products for customs. They actually had some really big accomplishments as a working couple. 5 years ago, Trish and I had a son, and Bruce took to him like you wouldn't believe. I can remember times Tricia coming home saying she had to take E to work, and E, nicknamed because of Bruce, to work, and she would come home telling me about how Ethan spent most of his time playing in Bruce's office with his toys. A year or so later, he had a grandson of his own. Trish and I were so happy when he told us. We knew he would be the best grandfather ever, and man, was he proud. That little boy became everything to him. I think before he was born, Bruce already had Christmas and birthday presents figured out for the rest of Griff's life. Still not sure who loved the trains more, Gramps or Griff, but I do know they loved them together. And I think if they had more time together, they probably would have taken over his daughter-in-law's entire house. Blue, Aaron, I know this is the hardest thing to go through. 20 years ago, I watched my mom fight cancer for 2 years. It is the worst disease I know. It tests your faith, your relationships, my entire life. All I can tell you, it has never gone away from me, but it does get easier over time. I think about my mother all the time, and I will always be thinking about Bruce. My heart and prayers go out to you. At this time, there's a lot of guys in the operation group that obviously couldn't be here, and several of them have sent in letters, so I'd just like to read some of these letters from the guys. Jeremy Dix, Portland, D.C. manager. I knew and worked for Bruce for almost 20 years. First time I met him, he was portrayed as a consultant looking at our operations. I don't normally trust strangers, but we went to dinner, and I opened my big mouth and let the good and the bad flow for the next couple hours. We hit it off immediately. Must be a laid-back West Coast thing. I was thrilled when I learned he was coming on as a VP of Operations, as I was on a go-through my boss, the RSM, to talk to the former VP clan. And then I started thinking maybe I shouldn't have said some of the things I did at that original meeting and dinner. Later, Bruce called and he thanked me for the honest assessment and said I was partially responsible for his decision to join Tucker-Rocky. Bruce turned out to be one of my favorite bosses of all times, as I felt he truly cared about me and the people that worked in operations. He tried to put a name and a face to employees we were talking about, which is hard when you're dealing with many locations and people. But he knew all my key players and would ask how they are doing and would go to bat for them when needed. They were more than just numbers on a spreadsheet. I think most of the DC managers would have walked through hot coals to get it done for Bruce. He knew how hard the job is and appreciated what it took to get it done. Some of my favorite memories are when he would call me long after his workday should have been done, when he was on his second glass of wine, and he would talk for an hour or more about how things were going, not only at work, but at home and life too. I tried to talk him into retiring, but he said he wouldn't know what to do with himself. Working is who he was. I would sometimes get responses to emails I was sending at 8 p.m. West Coast time thinking, does this guy ever go off the clock? I think Bruce's life became fulfilled when he became a grandpa. You could see his eyes light up and his pride swell when he talked about his grandson. I only wish they had more time to get to know one another better. I think the only thing I heard him talk of wanting as much as a grandchild was a Porsche. I tried to tell him to just do it, but he just don't think he ever found the right one. Bruce was more of a Monterey guy than a Dallas guy and always felt a little like an outsider, but I am glad he took the job at Tucker-Rocky. He was more than a boss to me. He was my friend, and I will miss him. Chris Drennan, Denver DC manager. I will miss Bruce. I always had a good time talking to him about San Francisco 49ers and the Giants and his love for sports. Bruce hired me as a manager when I transferred from Kansas City. I remember Bruce telling me, here's the keys and don't let me down. If you have a problem, call. I called Bruce a lot. He always helped me out and was a great boss to me. He always gave me a lot of grief over fantasy football and that I was from Kansas. He was always someone to look up to and helped guide me in my career. Bruce will be missed. I know you're looking down having a glass of wine. Dennis Cody, out of the Denver, DC also. I started with Tucker-Rocky in May 1996 when they moved to Colorado. Bruce came out from Texas to help us get things set up. I used to wear cowboy boots to work all the time. Bruce commented on how uncomfortable they must have been. While he was here, he had trouble remembering my name, and so he started calling me Cowboy. And he continued calling me that for years. I could always call him with a problem that needed solved. He was one of those people I knew and I had contact with the longest in my 16 years with the company. He will be missed. There's only a few more, sorry. Debbie Johnson from the Jacksonville, DC. It was with such shock, sadness, and heartbreak when we were informed of Bruce's passing. Bruce made a tremendous difference in my life. I feel grateful to him for many reasons, mostly because he really listened to what I had to say. If I was right or wrong, he listened, and in his own way, drew me to the most effective conclusion. He paid attention. He had confidence in me, which gave me confidence to grow. Did I mention that he paid attention? Sometimes that was a double-edged sword, and if you ever found yourself on the other side of one of Bruce's, "Hey guys, we did this wrong" emails, you know what I'm talking about. And with that said, you know he always addressed the real problems and gave a real working solution for everyone involved. Bruce had a unique ability to draw people together rather than divide. He passed on or found the same skill set in the people he worked with, as they also possessed the same skills. Bruce made you feel and see that your contributions mattered, that you were all the same team. I am thankful I had a pleasure to know him. Deepest respect. Jason Moak, DC Manager, Jacksonville. Bruce Baker and I started with Takaraki at roughly the same time. He, the VP of Operations, and I, a part-time packer, while going to school. I wouldn't get to really know him until several years later when he entrusted me the Jacksonville Distribution Center. Over the next decade, I got to know him, respect him, and look to him for guidance and encouragement. Bruce was always there. Bruce became a trusted friend and a mentor, but he never trusted me quite enough to drive his car, although it wasn't from a lack of me asking. He was open and honest when I sought his counsel about leaving Takaraki in 2007, and when I realized that I had made a mistake and that Tucker was home, he welcomed me back, resuming my open position. Bruce was a trusted member of our operations team for many years. His ability to bring us all together despite our differences was uncanny. Bruce could always tell me what I wanted to hear, but get me to do what he needed me to do. He was our leader, our supporter, and had our backs in times of need. Bruce was always available to listen, give counsel, and always give you a da-da-da-da. Bruce will certainly be missed here in Jacksonville. This next letter is actually from a Director of National Accounts at R&L Carriers. I first met Bruce when I took Carlos and Bruce to lunch with another sales rep back in 1998. We became immediate friends, as I believe he became with most people he came across. He always had kind words to share and was always in great mood. You could hear it in his laugh. Bruce Baker is actually an icon in the world of transportation and logistics. Anybody who works in this industry knows Bruce Baker. And if you didn't actually know him firsthand, you wanted to because of his reputation. His reputation was solid, and his integrity was second to none. I look to Bruce, and I sincerely believe he got pleasure in educating people in the industry what he knew. He shared with everybody and never met a stranger. Bruce called me when he first knew he was sick, and he was so positive, and his attitude was just as it always was, happy and upbeat. He knew he could beat this because nothing he ever beat Bruce Baker, and nothing ever will. I believed he could win, and in my heart I knew if anybody could do it, Bruce could and would. After he finally shared with me that he was ill, we began talking fairly frequently because I wanted to check in on him, but more importantly, I wanted him to know that nothing was different. I was not going to treat him different or act different because he was sick. To me, he was the same old Bruce that I had known for over 15 years. Bruce was a hard worker and loved his company, but his true love was his family, from Blue to Aaron to Griffin. Their world was brighter when he talked about his family and shared stories about them. He used to tell me the reason he liked me so much is that me and his daughter had the same name. I know hundreds of men working in this industry for over 30 years, and of all the acquaintances I have, the ones I hold dear to my heart are the ones who love to tell you how much they love and adore their family. And then there is Griff. The world spun around Griff. I have pictures of Bruce and Griff that I will cherish forever. He was so proud I thought he would pop some days when he would talk about them. So to all of you here to honor and celebrate the life of Bruce Baker, from a stranger in California, I can tell you sincerely from the bottom of my heart that he loved and cherished every one of you. He made more love to share than any person on this planet. It's truly an honor to have known Bruce, and I will forever be grateful that our lives crossed paths, and I can thank Carlos Aguilar for introducing us and making my life better for knowing him. It's truly an honor to be considered his friend, and my heart will have a piece missing for the rest of my time here. I know Bruce is finally at peace and in a much better place. If I know Bruce, it will look like his yard soon. I will close with this. I pray that God blesses you with the strength to carry on as Bruce would want, and to live the rest of your days knowing that you too are blessed and forever changed by having known Bruce. He is one of a kind and will be deeply missed. Obviously, Bruce touched a lot more people than just operations. This is another one from a carrier, DHE. Dear Baker family, I wanted to write all of you together to let you know how saddened I was to hear of Mr. Baker's passing. I know this has brought nothing but sadness to all of you, and I hope you know that there are so many people around who want to help. Mr. Baker was a kind, loving, and caring man. He always was willing to listen to me and talk to me. I never was able to meet such a great person face to face, but will never forget that he is the one that started my career in sales. He would never doubt me in my ability to service Takaraki's transportation needs. I would email him always asking how he was doing. Most of the time, we never talked about business, just how life was in Texas, and how he enjoyed living in the coast before he moved to Texas. He was such a likable person, very easy to talk to. He always talked about how he treasured his beautiful family. He will be sorely missed. I know each of you is mourning independently, but I hope you all also rely on one another to get you through this. No one knew Mr. Baker better than his lovely family, so sharing stories and memories with each other can only help. It might be painful at first, but once you start laughing about Mr. Baker's personality or his funny jokes, you'll realize that you're starting to feel a little better. Please, please do not hesitate to call if you need anything. God bless the Baker family. This next one is from Songi. He's in the Visalia Distribution Center now. He's been with us forever. I was glad Songi sent this in. One of the memories I have about Bruce and Songi, Songi is one of the Samoans. There was always two Samoans that Bruce always used to talk about. One of them passed away, and Songi's the other one. One of the stories that I always laughed at, I remember Bruce telling me he went out to the Sunnyvale warehouse, and for some reason, Bruce thought that the racking in the warehouse was all going the wrong way. So he told Marty that he wanted to have the rack move the other way. And now, obviously, that's a pretty big task. I think Bruce said like a week or two later, he went back out there, and every rack in the warehouse was moved. Bruce is like, what's going on? Marty basically said the two Samoans moved the entire warehouse in 2 weeks. Always after that, it was like, we need to find more Samoans. My family and I are sorry to hear that your family had such a kind and loving man pass away. He was such a great friend and a hard-working guy to know, and how loving and happy he is and possession that he had for his job. It inspires me to work harder to provide for my family, and I am thankful that I met him. May he rest in heaven, and I know God has another angel added to his list. Thank heavens it was peaceful and that he went knowing how much he was loved and supported by you all. My thoughts and sympathies are with you all. Wish my sincerest condolences at the sad time. Next one is from Chris Johnson, assistant manager in the Visalia, DC. Boss, friend, mentor, leader, coach, fantasy football guru. Bruce Baker played all of these roles and played them with perfection. He was always there to help, to counsel, to talk, to lead, to listen. This is one of Bruce's traits that I admired and respected the most, his ability to listen to you and respect what you said. Bruce treated all people with the same respect and that is why he was such a great leader, along with his ability to analyze any situation or issue and provide you with answers or guidance. Bruce had a great sense of humor as well, and was never hesitant to send me an email to tell me how bad my fantasy football lineup was for that weekend. And when my team beat his, he would always tell me, "How in the hell are you winning with those terrible running backs you have?" Bruce had forgotten that he told me to draft those backs in the first place. It is safe to say that I am a better person for having the good fortune to meet, work with, and become friends with Bruce. I know that everybody here feels the same. This last one is from Carlos Aguilar, DC manager of Visalia. Amigo. Bruce Baker was the name of the man that has brought us here today to honor his memory. I have no words to describe what this man has meant to me. When I hear Bruce Baker's name, I not only remember what he has made me accomplish in my life, but what a wonderful friend he was. Bruce was my mentor in every sense of the word. Bruce was my operations manager for many years. This man was one of the few that I did not take any BS when it comes to discussing any problems or excuses or why things didn't get done. Bruce knew exactly what needed to get done, and he made sure that we did the things the way he told us to. Because when it came to knowing the operations department, he knew every step. I can recall when he would call me at least 2 or 3 times a week and ask me how things were going. We would be on the phone for at least 1 or 2 hours. He would discipline me if I needed it. I would argue if I didn't agree with him, but at the end of the day, he always there if I needed any advice. Bruce made me feel like he was grabbing my hand and guiding me through every step that I needed to take. He was like a father figure that would be walking with his son by the hand and teaching him what needed to be done. That's how I felt with his guidance, like I was the son looking up at his father for guidance. Memories are life's most wonderful treasures, and I am truly grateful that I had the opportunity to know this wonderful man that will always have a special place in my heart. Bruce Baker was not only my boss here at Tucker Rocky, he was my friend, or like he would call me, his amigo. Amigo, you will forever live in my heart and memories.
It's kind of amazing listening to all the letters. It's amazing how many people's lives Bruce touched. It's, you know, it's phenomenal. I met Bruce almost exactly 12 years ago. He was on the team that interviewed me when I first came to Tucker Rocky, and Tucker Rocky was kind of in, we just had a massive computer failure. We were in a life-threatening position, and it was kind of a sink or swim situation for everybody, and that it developed a camaraderie that was pretty unusual in most companies. And it was a lot of hard work, but it was a lot of fun, and we all kind of got to spend a lot of time together, and obviously Bruce and I would visit from time to time, and you know, during that time I learned a lot about Bruce, but Aaron, I wanted to share one thing that he had shared with me. You know, there were a lot of things that were important to Bruce. Obviously, California was important to him. He's a little bit like my wife. He thought he was just in purgatory here in Texas, just kind of trying to wait till he could get back to California. But you know, and work was important to him. I'm not sure he would have ever really retired unless you know, the illness had come along. Horticulture was important, but his family was really what was important to him. And it was amazing. When Griff was born, it's like he changed. It's like the world changed for Bruce. I'd go in, and his attitude was just totally different. And obviously the train set, everybody knows about the train set. I think he probably had to put an addition onto your house to accommodate it. But and Blue brought his computer back the other day, and it was kind of interesting because I popped it open, and one of the last files that he looked at was accessories for trains. Just kind of neat, thinking about old Griff to the last minute. But Bruce told me a story that I thought was fascinating. And then he did something as a result of that I thought was wonderful. In 1916, roughly, you know, I'm sure you know a lot more about the story and that sort of thing. Bruce told this to me in bits and pieces, but about 1916, the young man, Bruce's grandfather, woke up one morning, put on his military uniform, strapped on, I found out today, a matching pair of extremely, today, really rare pistols. They were 45 caliber Colt revolvers, and I'm not sure where he was. Bruce, you know, somewhere in the north central United States at that point in time. But he joined his other guys in the military, and they marched to Mexico. Walked over 1,000 miles looking for Pancho Villa. And, you know, to have a grandfather that did that was, you know, it's a cool story. But what was really cool is that Bruce still had the gun, one of the guns, that he carried. And, you know, I think Bruce found some of this fairly recently, if I'm not mistaken, that family heritage was a big deal to him. It was extremely important. He also had a gun that